Hey everybody, got some big news here. Joseph has found the latest, newest, and greatest 22 centerfire cartridge ever invented, perhaps. We're going to find out, but I've got a little bit of a twist to throw into this, going way back into the dark ages that might surprise you. Joseph, tell us all about your exciting new discovery.
Well, this is the 22 Creedmoor, just legitimized by Hornady.
Yeah.
Kind of in concert with Horizon Firearms, who did a lot to promote the cartridge as a wildcat and develop it over the past decade or so.
Yeah, that long.
Yeah. So the gentleman that was behind this was a serious coyote competition caller in Texas, right? And he was having trouble winning competitions because he wasn't killing coyotes at 500 and 600 yards real dead right now.
Yeah.
So he did a bunch of testing with different foundational cartridges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ended up finding that necking down a 6.5 Creedmoor to 22 caliber, giving it a fast rifling twist and shooting long, heavy bullets in it at nearly scandalous velocities.
Sounds
solved
predictable.
his problem.
Yeah, that sounds predictable too. So what are you getting? You're pushing what weight bullets?
So the initial factory load by Hornady and by Texas Ammunition, they're also loading. They're both loading a 80 grain Hornady ELD match bullet. For a 22 centerfire, has a real high BC. Now, 22 centerfires in general don't have really good aerodynamics, but this one's pretty good. It's nearly 500 on the G1 BC scale.
It's getting right up there.
485 to be specific.
485. Okay.
And it's coming out of the muzzle of a 24-inch barrel at nearly 3,300 feet per second.
All right.
Pretty impressive.
So what do you think about it compared to its competition?
Well, there isn't really anything else in that realm today that's a factory-loaded cartridge. But I have a feeling you're about to tell us about something way back that does a similar thing.
Let me have your Creedmoor cartridge. This, folks, is the 22 250 Remington Ackley Improved. Been around for a long time, as you might imagine. And beside it, we have the new 22 Creedmoor. And I mean, if you look closely, you can tell them apart, but it's not all that easy. They are basically holding the same quantity of powder. In fact, I think the Ackley might have just a smidge more. So what you're going to end up with is the ability, the horsepower to push the same bullets to the same velocity.
Sure.
The trick, though, is to have the fast twist barrel.
Yeah.
And that's where with the 22 250 Acme Improved, it's a bit of a wildcat. So you're not going to go down to the store and buy these. You've got to make them. Pretty easy to do. But once you've got your rifle custom chambered and your barrel with a fast twist, it's the same thing. When this thing first came out as a wildcat, I was all excited until I realized I already had one that was doing the same thing. But the cool news now is you can go down, buy a rifle already chambered with the fast twist barrel for the 22 Creedmoor, go to the store, buy your ammunition, and you're rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what turns your crank, you have got, I think, the ultimate coyote loader. The only ones that might come close are the original 22 250 and the 220 Swift, and hard to find, but the 223 Winchester Super Short Magnum. You don't hear much about that anymore. A little bit of overkill, perhaps. I haven't played around with it all that much. That might beat both of these. But I think for a reasonable, not burning out your barrels too fast, but long range, long reach coyote cartridge, like you said, either one of these are going to be ideal. And I predict that because this is a factory load, this 22 Creedmoor is going to become the 22 250 Remington of the 21st century. If you want to buy a coyote rifle, that's the ultimate. I think you can't go wrong.
I think you're right. I think your forecast is right, folks. The 22 Creedmoor has such an advantage over a standard 22 250, which is kind of the gold standard already, right, for predator hunters. Let's talk about some numbers, because I think a lot of people are going to sneeze and say, no, my 22 250 has everything I'm ever going to need. That has a lot of performance for a 22 centerfire cartridge, right?
It does.
The numbers don't lie. So here's a few fun things to just throw out the gate, right? A standard 22 250 with a 55 grain ballistic tip type bullet, whether it's a Nosler or a Hornady VMAX or whatever, going to exit the muzzle at nearly 3,700 feet per second, somewhere thereabouts.
Yep.
Now, bullet's going to have a BC of about 0.25-ish on the G1 BC scale. That's dismal. Okay.
Dismal.
That's dismal. So I've got some handy dandy notes here that I jotted down from the ballistic calculator this morning. And even though the 80 grain VLD match bullet starts out of the 22 Creedmoor about 400 feet per second slower than the standard 55 grain bullet in a 22 250. By the time they get to 500 yards, it's going 500 feet per second faster. The 22 250 loses velocity at such a high rate. It loses 900 feet per second more velocity at 500 yards than the 22 Creedmoor does.
And this is the benefit of ballistic coefficient. So many of my listeners go, BC, who cares? And I will agree with them up to maybe 300 yards. That's not a big deal. Maybe even to 500 yards if you're using a pretty sleek, efficient little bullet. If you're driving it really fast, you can get by. But man, when you start stepping past 400 yards and 600 and out there, wow, it's a huge difference. And I've seen the same thing with my Acme Proof.
Yeah.
I have been working up all kinds of loads for it over the years. And I settled on a 75 grain Burger VLD target load.
Yeah.
Of coyotes is just fine. I've used a variety of things for deer as well. And we want to talk about applicability of this for deer hunting because I think it's very legitimate. And what kind of numbers did you pull up? I got a little chart here for me now.
Yeah. So let's talk. First, I want to just compare the standard 22 250. We can compare it to the 22 Creedmoor and just say it applies to the 22 250 Acme as well.
Yeah.
So what does that 900 feet per second more velocity loss mean at 500 yards, at 800 yards?
Yeah. For drops,
due to
wind deflection.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're sighting at 200 yards, folks, 200 yards zero at standardized atmospherics. Now, this is important. That's 59 degrees at sea level, right? Gives you that air density to just compare them all across the board on an equal footing. At 500 yards, the 22 Creedmoor drops 31 inches. The 22 250 bullet drops 34.5 inches. So it's 3.5 inches more. Big deal, right? It's enough to make you miss a small coyote or a fox, right? Yeah. More importantly, impact velocity with the 22 Creedmoor, at 500 yards is more than 2,300 feet per second. With the 22 250, it's 1,840 feet per second.
And that's what I was meaning about the deer bolt.
Yeah.
This is getting up there to performance equal to or better than the 243 Winchester.
That's right.
Meter Remington.
And how about wind drift? 500 yards, 10 mile an hour, full value crosswind. The 22 Creedmoor drifts about 15 inches. The 22 250 drifts a little more than 30 inches. So double.
Yeah.
So what about energy? You're talking about shooting deer with it. The old, rule of thumb is about 1,000 foot-pounds is adequate for deer.
Right.
The 22 Creedmoor carries 952 foot-pounds of energy at 500 yards. It's there.
It's a legitimate 500-yard deer cartridge.
That's right.
You'd say.
And that's compared to 413 foot-pounds, less than half.
Yeah.
For the 22 250. Okay. So no wonder the 22 Creedmoor has proved to be a big game changer in that coyote calling competition world.
And has it really become kind of the go-to for those competitors, those serious hunters that are really looking for the ultimate coyote outfit?
I think it has. Now, it's been a wildcat for 10 years, right? It was just legitimized literally during the 2024 SHOT Show. The news came through from Sammy that it had been accepted and approved, right? But if you look at all the custom makers, everybody from Gunworks to Horizon Firearms have been building 22 Creedmoors for specialists for 5 to 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I have to agree because, as we said, my 22 250 Ackley is doing the same thing. And as we can see by these cartridges, when you stand at there's a big difference between the good old, quite tapered 22 250, and you straighten out the walls and you sharpen that shoulder to 40 degrees, and there's your 22 250, 30-degree shoulder, as is usual with the PRC cartridges on this 22 Creedmoor. But you can see the powder volume is almost identical on those. You're going to shoot the same bullets, and why bother with the 2250 Ackley at this point? You just might as well pick up a 22 Creedmoor.
And you can get head stamped brass from Peterson and Hornady. You can get the factory ammo from Horizon Firearms, Texas Ammunition.
Yep.
and so forth. Another interesting thing to notice when we're looking closely at the two is how much longer the 22-250 Ackley and the 22 Creedmoor are with those long, sleek bullets, right?
Got that headroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing is you can back off to the 55 grain bullets or the 50 grain bullets. You get your varmint bullets, you can use your shooting rock chucks or woodchucks or prairie dogs and all the rest of it. Why not? And you can download a little bit too. If you're worried about burning out your barrel, you don't need full performance. It's versatile, incredibly versatile. Now, I have taken deer with the 250 Ackley improved, the 22-250 Ackley improved, several times with several different bullets, and it works just fine. A lot of people think, oh, there's no possible way you can kill a deer with a 22, but it's been done too many times with a 222 Remington, a 223, a 22 Hornet, all the rest of them. Obviously, bigger is better, but be reasonable. If you like sleek, fast, minimal recoil, all the rest of the benefits of a 22, and you're good picking your shots, and that thing will enable you to precisely place your shots. That's a big deal. It's always the right bullet in the right place. So if you don't like a lot of recoil, you like flat trajectory and minimize wind deflection and all in a 22, I think this 22 Creedmoor is your baby.
Yeah. I think we should shoot him.
I think we need to shoot him too. And we'll compare the old standard 22-250, which when I was a kid, that was the hot property, man. I think it came out in 65, maybe 69 from Remington. It had been a Wildcat since, get this, folks, the 1920s. It was the 22 Varminter, and it was real popular. I don't know why it took so long for them to legitimize it. Remington finally did it in the 60s, and that became the go-to for coyotes. I went from a 222 Remington to a 22-250, never looked back. Yeah. But then when I stepped up to the Ackley improved, I thought I had it by the tail.
Never looked back again.
And now it's the 22 Creedmoor. Sorry, guys, I hate the Creedmoor name, but that is a legitimate cartridge. And by the way, Creedmoor refers to an old shooting range in New York State. There are a lot of cartridges named Creedmoor, even back in the 1800s. So don't sniff your Creed.
If I'm not mistaken, that's where the first World Championships long-range match was held when the Americans heard the Irish were claiming, world dominance. They said, wait, we didn't shoot in that match. Come on over. That's how the competition.
Wish they hadn't showed up, didn't they?
We won.
Yep.
So all right, I got to say, I'm shooting this Horizon Firearms right here. They're building a specific rifle called the Vandal, chambered only in 22 Creedmoor to help launch the cartridge, right? And I think they put a fun price on it. $2,222.
I had 22 cents.
22 everything, right? And for what you get, that's incredible. This is the equivalent of most $4,000 to $5,000 custom rifles.
Wow.
Very good carbon fiber stock, stiller action, premium
Pick
barrel.
that baby up so they can see it a little clearly here.
It's beautifully configured for precision shooting. This one has an 18-inch barrel, so it makes handling it with a 6-inch suppressor on it really comfortable.
What is that? Sacrifice and velocity.
You lose about 200 feet per second. So I'm just shy of 3,100 feet per second with this specific rifle and the factory ammunition. Now, how much does that hurt it? Well, it does a little bit, right? But my son, William, who's 13, shot this rifle the other day right here on this range that we're going to shoot on. They've got targets to 1,400 yards. He ran the little targets, the little round ones hanging on the side to make people hate themselves. One shot apiece all the way to 1,000 yards with this very rifle and factory ammunition. I don't know if I can do that. His eyes are pretty sharp. And
I don't want to take him on. Yeah, he can have that title.
But we might try just for the fun of it. But yeah, folks, this is a really, really good option if you want to get into a premium precision 22 Creedmoor.
Now, I got to thinking about that shorter barrel and giving up your velocity. First, we're bragging about this incredible velocity and all the benefits of it. Now we're starting to sacrifice it. But for obvious reasons, you don't have the muzzle blast, and I hate the muzzle blast. I'd always have to put my earplugs in before I shoot this guy. And a couple of years ago on a coyote, I stood up after making a call, and the coyotes out there weren't coming in. Here's one behind me. I stand up, I turn around, and he's popped out of the grass looking at me, and it's now or never. And my earplugs had come out, so I just, I didn't hear for a day.
And if you shoot when the break, that sort of thing still happens, and it's much, much worse.
Yes.
Now, it's worth noting, since we're talking about the short barrel, I've been using a 6mm Creedmoor for my go-to Predator cartridge for about 4 years, and it's fantastic. The 18-inch 22 Creedmoor runs right with the 6mm Creedmoor with a 24-inch barrel to 800 yards.
All right.
Same or less amount of bullet drop and wind drift to 800 yards. Now, obviously, it has a little less impact energy because it's shooting an 80 grain bullet rather than 105 to 110 grain bullet.
Yeah.
A little less frontal diameter, a little easier on fur.
Sure. You know, something else, though, you're giving up some velocity with this shorter barrel, but you're really not giving up much for your wind deflection.
Not a ton.
That's mostly the bullet's BC.
Yeah.
It doesn't change much with your velocity. A little bit, but not as much as if you change your BC. So sticking with the higher BC bullets is valuable. I would definitely do that. How are those 80 grains working out on fur?
You know, I think they're still hard on fur. It's never going to be like a 32 grain bullet in say a 204 Ruger. Yes. Or a 17 Remington. You're still going to put a big hole in the fur. Not going to be as big as a 6mm Creedmoor or 243.
Yeah. And you got it.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to sell fur if it's running off and you missed it.
Right. And fur prices these days are down. Apparently competition calling is up.
Yeah.
And people that, whether or not you can hit that coyote at 600 yards may win or lose you a competition. That's a big deal.
All right. Well, let's do some shooting here and see exactly how these things work.
Sounds good.
Joseph, I have not fired this rifle for at least 20 years, maybe even 30.
You should be ashamed of yourself, Ron.
I should.
Let's see where you at.
We don't even know where it's zeroed. So I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to pick out target C3.
Okay.
Looks like I hit down there by D3.
Yep. You got.
All right. We'll just use that for a group. Same hold. This is a single shot target style rifle, real popular with varmints back in the day.
Sure.
When it was built. Wow. That's what you get with an old unknown quantity barrel that hasn't been fired for 30 years.
Maybe that
and then a falling shot.
Blowing the dust out.
Oh, we'll call that one a falling shot. We're getting closer to C3 now.
Yeah.
Where'd that one go? Back down to D?
Yep, back down by D.
Wow. May have to do some work on this old rifle. Let's give her one more to see if there's any kind of consistency developing. No, there is not.
You almost hit C3.
I hit my C3 finally. You suppose I finally have my barrel fouled properly?
Could be.
Did that one go halfway between?
Yep, splitting it is.
That's pathetic. Maybe this is why I haven't fired this rifle.
I'd say either you got a load the rifle doesn't like, or maybe your scope's not behaving properly.
Yeah. Who knows after all this time of it sitting there? I don't even remember why. I think it never was really that accurate, and I just put it away because I wasn't into varmint shooting at the time with a single shot. Figured someday I'd get around to it. But I don't know if there's ever been a box of ammo shot through it. Well, let's see.
No guarantees, but I may be able to do better than that with 22.
I've got a hunch you might, and I might even be able to do it with my athlete if you even bother with it. But let's get this out of the way.
Maybe you better try.
Yeah, you think so? All right. Let's see what this old 22-250 Ackley can do. We go for F4 target, partner. Now, this thing should be about 2.5 inches high, if I remember how I had it set up. All right, everything's looking good. That is right out there. Yeah, I went up about to the next target, didn't I?
Right near it.
This is why I got that last coyote at 360 yards out of the office window.
Isn't that where you get them all from?
Like it opened up to about 3/4 inch group, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, that's generally what this thing will do. 3/4, a half to 3/4
Sure.
with this load, which for me is like dead coyote for the ranges that I'm shooting at. Very seldom when I'm taking them beyond 400 yards, usually calling them in. And it's, you know, I don't often see one beyond 400 yards unless it's screaming right at me. But occasionally they hang up out there. I mean, that one I had a couple of years ago was hanging up at, I remember it was like 600. And I just didn't feel confident shooting it because I didn't have a dial dial scope and everything. So that's when I stood up, turned around and shot the one right behind me about 100 yards. Coming into the back door. Let's see what that Creedmoor does.
Yeah, here's the great beauty of running that little piece of equipment on the end. I still run foam plugs, but I take off the.
Yeah, in a closed space like this, you kind of still want some protection. What you gonna shoot at?
Well, I think I'll shoot right next to the one you just shot at.
E3?
Yep. That way we can compare them nice and handy, close to each other.
Yes, indeed. I have a hunch you're gonna probably shoot a little tighter group than I did.
Well, don't jinx me right up front, Ron.
Want me to give you a little razz in here? Don't flinch now. Don't flinch. Concentrate.
This is a tough one to shoot well. I mean, the recoil is so.
It looks brutal from here. Look violent.
What is that, about 1.5 inches high?
Yeah, you dotted the top of the E.
Right, where it's supposed to be.
Oh, touching. Oh, a little bit high. Put it out to a little more than a 1/4 inch group, it looks like.
I'll take that.
I think the coyote would have taken that too.
Not too bad for
Not too bad.
off-the-shelf rifle and with factory ammunition. Isn't that incredible?
Let's stretch it out. Where do you want to go?
Well, let's probably go to 3 and
Let's jump
4
to 3.
and 5
Yeah.
and 6.
Do it.
All right.
So that number 300 out there suggests we might be out at 300 now. You shooting at a little plate or what?
Well, little plates are harder to hit than big plates, so by all means.
Okay, which one, left or right?
Which
One's
one's littlest?
on the left.
We'll shoot the littlest one. I can embarrass myself.
All right.
This is the one my son hit.
By golly, you hit a 300 yarder. Let's go off to 4.
Now, I've previously crunched ballistics for this and just written them on my turret, which is my way of doing a hillbilly ballistic turret.
Hey, Hillbilly, are you going to shoot for the small target on the left on the 400?
I am indeed.
Yeah, pretty poor shot. You were probably a 1/2 inch to the right of dead center.
Well, try to do better at 5.
I think you should. Now, is 5 the next one on the left?
Yep.
Way up the hill there.
If I'm not mistaken, it'll have a 5 on the hanger.
Boy, it's not bad. Are you ready to roll?
I am. We're going to shoot the left one again, the orange plate.
Left orange plate. Here we go, 500.
My boy hit the little plate on the right, but he's braver than I am. Here we go.
Nice. A little bit right on that one, too. I wonder if there's a bit of a left breeze out there.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I don't really see it. Can't feel it in here, but all right, let's find that 600-yard target. That's the one way up on the hill in the snow?
Yes.
Launch it at any time.
Fire in the hole.
Just caught the right edge. You better start allowing for some windage, partner.
Got it.
Now,
Our next one, we can either go left up the hill or we can go straight out to 1,000 yards and there's a bear target out there. What do you want to do, Ron?
I like your 1,000-yard bear target.
Cut. So that big plate will have a flasher on it. So even with this little 22 centerfire bullet, it should flash. A little electric flasher if we hit the big plate. Let's try that first.
Oh, you want to hit the big plate first? Now, let me get lined up then, partner.
Let's try big plate, small plate, bear. Ready? Fire and hole.
Fire and hole. Off the left side.
I actually saw that. I think we've got a reverse wind going up there. Okay. Firing again.
You brought it back to the right a couple of inches only.
One more.
No.
That one's an impact. Did you hear it ring?
No, I didn't. But then I'm half deaf.
I heard the impact.
It made a clack. Yep. Okay. Let's go right to the bear.
Right to the bear. Bear's ready. Over the top.
How much over the top?
Oh, I'd say a good 9 inches. Surprisingly high. There you go.
That one went right between his legs, didn't it?
Either it was between his legs or your splatter came down between his legs. I couldn't tell.
And that's, by the way, not a real size bear. That's a vital, like a deer vital sized bear.
Yeah, let's do smaller. I'm going to enlarge him for another shot if you got one.
Let me put one in. We're pretty hot. This barrel is scorching now, but we'll give her one more try.
Get a lot of heat distortion out there too.
Yes. Okay. There we go.
Looks like you dropped between his legs again.
Yep. Well,
Yeah, don't worry about your barrel.
what the heck?
All right.
One shot left and the box is empty. What the heck? We'll
All
refute
right.
it. There we go.
I think we need William. Hey, he splattered mud just over the top of his back, I think.
Yep, we need William.
Yeah.
Well, we did good, the 600.
Well, you sure did. And as we said, how many coyotes did you shoot at 1,000 yards?
Yeah. Well, and how many rounds did we have to this when I went to 1,000? We're already at, well, we shot 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 before we even went to 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you should have been adequately warmed up. I don't see the problem.
Just about, huh?
Okay, that was fun.
It was fun.
Hey, tip of the week. If you're coyote calling, put a lot of time and effort into getting into the right position. You want to be calling so that the wind is coming at you and the coyotes don't smell you. You can call crosswind setups, but you also have to have good vision. You've got an open field when those coyotes come in. You don't want to dip in the landscape where they disappear and then sneak around you. Get a bush behind you, get a little hillside behind you. You kind of have to give up on the back because the wind's blowing your scent back there anyway. But sometimes they will come in the back door. So be ready. But get a good clean setup before you start calling. Otherwise, you're just out there educating coyotes. Agree?
That's right. I agree.
Anything else to add to that?
Well, I would take a totally different tangent and say another tip is use a suppressor. Protects your hearing, minimizes recoil so you get those fast follow-up shots. And many times, a coyote doesn't cotton on as fast when he's used to normal gunshots out of a non-suppressed rifle. So you get a second shot if you miss your first, or you get a second coyote if you got the one.
I never thought about missing a shot. Something different.
Some of us are still mortal, Ron.
I was kidding. Well, there they are, folks. The original 22-250 Remington, which I've loved for many a year, but the 22-250 Ackley improved with the straighter walls and a 40-degree shoulder. I love that one. But now, making it easy for everybody, 22 Creedmoor. I think that's our new baby, the new 22-250 hot rod, 22 centerfire for the 21st century. Joseph, what kind of bullets, loads, and such are available in this thing?
Well, of course, for hand loaders, the world is your oyster. You can get reloading dies from Hornady, I'm sure. Factory loads right out the gate. There's 2 of them from Hornady, the 80 grain ELD match that we've been shooting here, and an 80 grain ELD X bullet that actually has the same BC and the same muzzle velocity. And initial tests indicate they hit the same point impact.
Cool.
So you can go from your varminting bullet to a hunting bullet back and forth without any issue.
Black box you got
The
here.
black box is by Texas Ammunition. They're also loading 80 grain ELD match bullets. And that's the one that in this gun, when I ran my formal clinical accuracy tests, it averaged 0.28 or 0.29, just barely more than a quarter inch for 3 consecutive 3-shot groups at 100 yards.
Sweet stuff. There you go, folks. If you're interested in a hot 22, check out the new 22 Creedmoor. So this is Ron Spomer with Joseph Von Benedict. Joseph, where do we hear you on the radio here?
Well, the best place. They've always told me I have a face for radio. I'm not sure how to take that, but the best place to find me, folks, is on the Backcountry Hunting Podcast, or occasionally I'm privileged to join Ron here on Ron Spomer Outdoors.
Yeah, and Ron Spomer Outdoors Podcast. We'll drag you in there a few times too.
You bet.
And if you're looking for the newest, hottest, fastest, flattest shooting, ultimate 22 center fire, give that 22 Creedmoor a look. And in the meantime, hunt honest and shoot straight.